minutes from last month's meeting, as we did not have a quorum. So if you've had a chance to read these, if I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Financial report. You were given a financial report. Jim probably looked it over, but this is from the city. It shows that we have $18,721.41. I know that we have had a motion by Jim, seconded by Jack, to give $17,500 to the city last year. Only way I can correct this or change it anyway is to ask Stephanie how much we still have outstanding that we need to pay for of the $17,000.
Of the 17?
Yeah.
I don't have that with me, but I can
About
email it out.
12,000, isn't it?
Probably less than that.
Less than that.
But I'd have to email that out. I didn't know to come prepared with that.
Yeah. And that goes, that money goes through September.
Yes.
Those are, because that fiscal year began October 1, and it goes to September the 30th. And I know we've spent, up to this point, I know we'd spent somewhere around, written checks for somewhere around $4,500. Maybe, and then maybe one more after that, so we're talking 12,000. So roughly, if we said 12,000, we still have 6,500 in our bank account. Anybody disagree with that? I mean, it's not an accurate amount, but it's close. Okay? All right. I need an approval or a motion to approve the financial report. I mean, you can see the report. This is what we've written checks on. So you know how much is in the bank, you know we owe money, and this is what we spent money on. I'll pass this to Jim if he has anything that he wishes to say.
Well, yeah, I have to apologize because I haven't been here for the last several meetings because of being out of town. But so all we've spent so far is roughly $5,000 of.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Of the 17.5.
Okay.
Now, I have somewhere among this mess up here, I have the thing that Stephanie had given us on where she was going to spend the money. The majority of that money was being spent in the second quarter of the year, April, May, June, July, and August. Somewhere along that.
Of that 17? Most of it was focused May through September, a little
Yeah.
heavier September.
Yeah. So it's in this last
Actually,
two quarters,
July, August, September.
the second and third quarter of the year, but it's the last third and fourth quarter of the fiscal year for the city. I know that doesn't sound right, but, you know, calendar year, it's May through September. Fiscal year is the last two quarters of their fiscal year.
And you have it all budgeted?
That was,
That was what you guys approved. I brought it to you, you voted, you approved.
Not me.
Oh, I know, not you, but
if I find it, I'll give you a copy of that, Gary, so you can see what we were spending the money on.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Okay. So, do I have a motion to approve the financial report?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Motion made by Jack. A second?
I'll second.
Second by Gary. Any discussion? Vote for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, now, under new business, we have 3 topics: budget, advertising, and election of officers. We can reverse those, we can keep them in that order, we can do however you want to do it. The budget is what we have to submit to the city. And when we submit it to the city, it goes in as one line, which is marketing. That's their line that fills the budget.
So then we're line 53265.
Yeah. Now, before we do that, I've given you some paper statistics. We have one that looks like this. It's not yellow, but it's and I have others up here for all the years in between. I just did some jumps. 2002, the far right, and the top half of that is the city of St. Genevieve. And the one that we're most concerned with is Code 70. And why we're concerned with Code 70 is that's lodging. That's lodging sales, of which we collect 8.725, and then we add another 2% to that. In 2002, we did 889,694. I've got the years in between. I'll be glad to share them with you. They gradually go up. In 2005, we did $1,241,480. Now, these, and you'll see up there at the top, it says 8. Well, in these years, there were 8 lodgings collecting the tax in St. Genevieve City. And one year was only 7. And I think that was probably year 10, 2010. And that's probably because about year maybe closed or something like that. So I'm going to tell you who.
No, it didn't close.
Huh?
It
It
didn't
didn't
close.
close.
Well, somebody didn't do it because the state shows that in that year there were only 7.
Would that have been the St.
That
Genevieve
the
on
inside-
I don't know
fire?
who it was. We're not allowed to.
What about
No, but
what
he
about,
was on fire. He had a fire. He was
Yeah.
out for a while.
It could have been
yeah,
him closed that, although he was open,
Dr. Hurtig's house was open.
Dr. Hurtick's, but
But
it was
not-
open.
Yeah, Dr. Hurtig's house, but not
But
the,
that, he reports both of those as one. He
everything
does
else.
not separate
Oh, does he?
those.
Because he reports everything else separate.
Well, let me
I mean, I
tell
don't know
you,
about how he does the taxes.
if we have 8, let me tell you this.
When did the Steiger house close?
Oh, way back.
That 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that would have been an 8 also, wouldn't it?
No,
Before that?
it was before that when he closed.
It was closed for a week or
He
two.
closed,
Was it
he
before
closed
you-
because,
okay.
because it was sold, and then he stopped running it. But I'll tell you who the 8 seem to be, and I can't prove who they are, but you have, in the town, you have the Mike Hotel, you have the Wilmar, you have the Triangle, you have the Hotel St. Genevieve. That's 4. You have Main Street, you have the Inn St. Jim and Hurtig House, you have Somewhere in Time, you have the Southern Hotel. That's the only 8 that show up,
That's strange.
okay? And that's the only 8 that have shown up on the state's rolls since, we go all the way back to 2001. Only 8. Now, for the county, they show 11. Okay? And that's also very strange, because showing the 11, you have the Regency, you have the Manor, and you have the Crown conglomerate of 30 rooms. And those are the three in the county. That's all we have.
So Jack and Joel wouldn't be part of that with their bed and breakfast?
Or Chalmette.
Or Chalmette with their lodging?
What about Whitehaven? Or whatever the White.
Well, he said
That's
that.
what the Manor.
That was
Oh,
the
that's
manner.
the manor.
Yeah, Wycliffe Manor.
In St. Mary.
Wycliffe.
It only shows a total of 11 in the county. Now, also included in that is one RV camp in the county. Well, you can go out there to this and look at it and see it. And the conglomerate of Crown Valley is 30 rooms. Yeah, I mean, you got Tiger Den, you got Tiger Ridge, you got Miss L's, you got all of these out there. But listed, we have Charlottesville, and that conglomerate, and the Manor, and the Regency. And I think the Regency is somewhere between 65 and 70 rooms.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So if you take that 70 and the 30 and the 5 down in St. Mary, you're talking 105, 6, 7. And I know they don't collect money from taxes from the condominiums, which are not rented, but they're rented by the day. To be void of sales tax, you know, they don't have tourism tax, but to be void of sales tax, you have to have someone stay 30 days or more.
You know, aren't them owned by certain people?
Those are privately owned villas that are rented out.
Yeah, so therefore, if they owned it and then they,
They still have to collect sales tax because someone does not stay. That was an issue that came up years ago, and the state started investigating people that own condominiums around lakes, and it started in New York around the park, New York City around the park, but it hit pretty hard in Missouri, because I was on the board of directors when it hit, and this was quite a few years ago, that they weren't collecting sales tax. And the law, I didn't make up the law is a statute by the state of Missouri, says if you stay 30 days or more, you do not pay sales tax. You do not pay it, you do not collect it. But if you stay less than 30 days, you must collect sales tax. But here's the point. If you look at this piece of paper I've given you, in the county, now that's the second set of numbers. These are the numbers, you know, taken in the county. And over here it says 35. That's that particular one is food and beverage. The one that says 11, that includes us. We're in the county. You'll see that in 2011, January to March, it was $208,661. We took in here $176,607. You're talking somewhere around $32,000 for 110 rooms in the month of March.
okay, I'm kind of new at this, okay? First being it. But I understand our concern about, but our tourism tax, we just represent the city of San Genevieve.
It does.
I mean,
And the first time, now why I'm bringing this up, the first time we did not take the money out of our tourism tax to match the grant was last year in the 2011 grant. We
12.
gave the money to her.
The 12 grant.
17.
I'm sorry, the
Yeah,
12
12
grant.
grant.
The 12 grant was the first one, the one we're in right now,
yeah,
is the 12 grant. We did not participate in that. The city took it over, and that's why we always had to include the county,
right.
because the grant is countywide. The GMO is countywide. If you're going to play with the grant, you have to advertise the county.
Right.
And we felt it was very unfair. It shows up right here in these numbers. You're talking, they have way more than we have in the entire city of St. Genevieve. Rooms.
Well,
Now,
yeah,
how much they get for their rooms, I can't tell you that, what the dollar amount
they
is.
get more than we do.
Well, they do, the ones out there in
I
the
mean, I don't
30
know-
rooms,
I don't
in
know
the
about
30
the
rooms that are out there.
Hotel, yeah.
Yes.
But that's my question, you know, like, we really can't do nothing about that out in the county. though,
No,
right?
we can't, but that's the reason why we backed out
Okay.
of participating in the grant. Because the people of St. Genevieve City felt that we were collecting the money here, not just us commissioners, we were collecting the money here, we should be spending the money to bring them to this city and not bring them to the county, because we're not getting anything from the county money-wise.
Right.
Why should we advertise it? Well, you want to play the game with the state, you have to play their game. And we said, we don't want to play the game anymore. Am I correct in this, Jim? Okay. So, these are the numbers, and you can see in 2002, we were at 889. The only problem is in 2011, now this is fiscal, calendar year, not fiscal year stuff. This is calendar year. In 2009, we were only $3,000 higher than we were back in 2002 in our general tax revenue. And knowing that, in 2010 wasn't a whole lot greater, but knowing that, if you're going to give $17,000, allocate $17,000 for, whether you do it to whomever or just allocate it as a budget, you're allocating almost your entire income. Because 2% of 886,000, let's say 2% of 850,000 is $17,000.
Well, that's one reason why we cut back too. We were up to $24,000, $25,000 a year, and that's why we decided last year to cut it back to 17.
In 05, look where we were, $1,241,000.
Right.
Which, when you double that, that's $24,000 right there. Almost $25,000 right there that we took in that year. Now, what we did do is, by matching the grant, we also, if we did a $20,000 match, you know, we would have income of $20,000. But it's hard to have that income and not have the attendance of people coming into the town and hear these people in the shop say, well, what's going on? You know? Now, I also did some numbers for St. Charles, just down here at the bottom, and these are lodging numbers. And you see in 2002, this is the city of St. Charles. And the city of St. Charles gets 5.75%. Now that's for the county, but it goes, the portion that's collected by the city goes to the city. And so I just did the city's numbers. I didn't do the entire county except for the bottom one down here in 2011. You see it says 15,000 to 28. But you see 14 million, 15 million, almost 16 million. Out of that 16 million, they actually got $918,363 in lodging tax. Now, how do we compete with that?
Get a casino.
It's like throwing
Yeah, get a casino, right.
a piece of sand in the
Don't
water.
say that out loud.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we can't. So we have to do as we see, as this commission sees fit on how to spend the money. It's up to us. But these numbers are just to give you an idea of where we are and what we've been. I've got printouts of every year. I just couldn't get them on one page, but I have got total numbers for every year, all the way from 02 through 10. And it shows you when we were up and down. And I know this, okay, everybody talks about the bad year. It started in 07.
Yeah.
It started in 07. It wasn't 08, it started in 07. They all say 08.
That's when somebody jumped ship.
But it started in 07, and that's when the economy went sour. But when you look at St. Charles's lodging tax, it doesn't seem to hurt them at all. But look how much money they have to spend.
Well, look at all the
And also
motels
look
and
at
stuff they got.
the number of hotels, and also the attractions. I mean, they have a casino right there. There are 3 professional sports teams in the St. Louis metro area. I mean, when it comes to attractions, they have
much more than we have.
far more.
Yes, far more. I mean, and I can tell you, okay, back in the 80s, this was a long time ago, when Marjorie Bender was director of tourism, she had $6 million a year to spend. That's all she had for tourism to spend. And they didn't have the grant stuff. Our next door neighbor, which is Illinois, which by the way is broke, and maybe that's the reason why they are, although tourism brings dollars to the community, they had 28 million at the same time when we only had 6. And we were bitching at her, and finally they got it up there, but have they even signed the bill yet to release the money?
Actually, yes, that came through the other day. So
Okay.
we are approved for fully funding, and our score was 84. Going back to 2006, I haven't seen any approval numbers over 70.
75, 78, 76.
I think 78 was the highest, so it was a good grant. It's a good plan.
And it's for what, 34,
No, the match is just under 25.
25?
The total budget request was 49.
You can't go over
560.
50 anyway, right? I
Nope,
mean,
No.
50s are locked. And then City of St. Charles, by the way, gets 6 figures on a
Well,
match.
and that's
just
unfair,
FYI.
I know that, but the
Oh, no,
reason why
I
is
was just
they don't
saying that-
think we could match it, and we couldn't.
No, we couldn't.
But you can go out there and you can see who has what. In this area, there's only three counties in this area that are even in the grant process. Came through ROS and. I
They
don't
get
think-
50, they're able to go over 50.
Yeah, but that's because of their population and number of hotels they have.
Right.
See, they don't count, none of our hotels or lodgings count. You have to have over 100 rooms to count in one facility. Yeah. And they don't count anything, they don't count anything from St. Louis down to Cape, except Cape, because nobody has over 100 rooms. And that's just the way Missouri does it. Very few places, Branson, Kansas City, St. Louis, and one other place has 6 figures, and they have multiple grants they can go into. Leisure, sports complex, meeting facilities, you know. So in reality, some of those are getting something like 300 for this and 200 for that, and one of them's getting 600 for something else. You know, but we can't get any more than what we can get, which is 50,000, and we match it with 25. But anyway, I'm just giving you figures here so you have something to work on, so you can think about what you want to do. Does anybody have any questions on this stuff? It's not a good picture. One of the things that Stephanie put out at the Tourism Commission meeting was a package of numbers for what people charge and
And
what
that's
people
in
have
the-
that. Her numbers are not exactly right, because she gets them from the state.
No, actually, this is from the Missouri Association of CVBs. They did a study.
That's not right, because in St. Genevieve, I collect 10.725, or 725, 10.725. That's, I paid for the state for sales tax, 8.725.
Was there a tax increase, though, since August 2010? Someone had it, was it the
There
county?
was a tax increase by the county.
The county, so that was a half
Road
cent.
tax, I think.
Yeah, about a year ago.
Yeah, so that's not included, and this was done in August of 2010. So that's probably where that discrepancy is, since this is 10.2, you said 10.7?
And for instance, the city of St. Charles, I don't see where St. Charles has a 1% restaurant tax, but they have a 5.75% in the city for lodging tax.
Yeah, and this doesn't have any of the restaurant taxes. This only,
No.
it's,
Most everybody has just a 1% if they have one.
right. This is just represents the hotel tax.
Yeah.
I think they're working on a study to get also the restaurant, because especially like Lake the Ozarks, Kansas City, St. Louis, I know Herman has a restaurant tax. for,
Right.
right, restaurants, eating
Right.
establishments.
Right, and if you look, you can see that there are still, like the city of St. Louis has a 725. So, but they have a lower on the other taxes. But, I mean, St. Louis County is almost 16%, 15.75%.
City of Maryland Heights is at 7.5. I was shocked to see how high that was.
Yes. When we tried to promote the tourism tax, I always thought Florida had the highest tax. And we researched it, and a place just north of Memphis was 19%, and a place just, now this is 10 years ago, and a place just outside of Dallas was 21%. That's the total tax, and that's what the guy pays. I mean, he doesn't care that he pays 2% for this and 2% for that, 1% for that. He cares that when he comes here, and what's bad for us is the fact that the county is 4% less than we are. Because they don't have that 2% that pays for the levy that now goes into the general fund, and they don't have the tourism tax. So it's 4% less. So when we collect 8,725 for the, for that, and put the 2 on it, they're collecting 6,725.
But their rates are much higher. I know White Cliff is $250 a night. I know the villas are $300 a night.
Yes, but if
But
you look at
That's a lot
this,
higher.
this,
They're not doing any volume, and if I can interject here, your list only shows, I believe, I don't have access to it, those that are charging it. When you look at the ones that aren't charging it, and that's my competition, Ozora is 4% less than us. Perryville is less than 8% total. Potosi is 8.25. Jackson, Missouri is less than 7. Festus is 10.325. They're cheaper than us. That's my competition. I didn't get Fruitland. They're not incorporated, as is, I don't think, P-Lay. I haven't got those yet. But I really don't care what St. Louis or these others care.
right, you care about what's closest to us.
I'm comparing about what's on the 55 corridor. That's the competition. No,
Here's
they can
what I
charge
don't
all they want in other
understand.
places, but I got to compete with these guys.
So what's the proposal? Where are we going?
Well, if you're thinking in terms of raising your taxes, you're going to put us at even more of a disadvantage. And we're generating 60% of the income right now at the motel, and I can tell you, while you're talking about numbers, our sales were down $50,000 in 2011 versus 2010, despite all the big advertising budget. And if it wasn't for the construction crews that we've got in off the interstate highway right now, we'd be another 60,000 below where we were last year. So what we're doing is not working.
Well, and it doesn't seem to be working to me for the 110 or 15 rooms that they have out there, because in the 3 months of January, February, and March, we did $150,693 in the city.
I don't know how it happened, but when we left, Mike, the first time, we had $50,000 in the bank.
Yes.
President Jim, almost $50,000.
Yeah.
And then when it got switched over to the county deal, and all the money was blown, But I don't understand, if the rule is it has to be done at a county level, then we need to get the rule changed, so that we can start utilizing these dollars in a grant to double them like we used to, and then get the carryover value and build that thing back up.
It's not tied to the grant, though.
That's my point. It changed from the city as the DMO to the county, and that's when we went to pot.
But that's state requirement.
Then I'm saying we need to get the rule changed.
Then that's something you have to do at the state level.
I understand that. That's why I bring it up. We're not going anywhere with this tax commission dollar-wise, because not only is our sales down, we've raised our rates during that same period. We went from $59 to $79. So even if we're even, we've lost that percentage in number of room rentals. So not only have we lost volume, we've lost room nights.
Right.
Because my rate is $79.95 versus $59.95 back in those days, and our average room rental went down over 8% in the last, during that same time frame. I mean, it went up 8% during that same time frame. So we were getting more money, our sales are going down, we're just not getting the room nights. And over 60% of our room nights are single rentals, and those aren't tourists. Those are construction and business people. We're not getting any tourists of any significance. We're certainly not getting any increase. So something needs to change.
And the county thing also applies to any of these other areas we're talking about, so what's the incentive or to get it changed to go to the state to get it changed?
The incentive would be then we wouldn't have to advertise all those things out there in our advertising program.
I understand that, but.
I mean, that would be the only incentive.
I understand that.
It may not make, I'm just telling you kind of what happened. I don't know whether it makes sense or not, but we're certainly, with the grant, we're obligated to advertise everything, whereas before we weren't, and we focused all of our money on St. Genevieve. Whether it was 80,000 brochures a year and all those distributions and those things, the focus was strictly on St. Genevieve, and we were spending almost 50,000 a year through the grant program. Is that not right, Mike?
50,000 a year, we're matching at 25.
Yeah, and we were building the dollars every year because of the 50% we got back.
Yeah, I don't mean our incentive, what, do we go to the state as a reason, I guess, to try to sell that?
I don't know. I've talked to Engler or somebody,
It's
but
very
I'm just
unclear.
saying, from our
very
standpoint,
unclear.
we're not getting the bang for our buck that we got 3 or 4 years ago because of that very reason.
Right.
Because we focused 100% of the advertising on St. Genevieve.
Right.
With the exception, we put the wineries in there, our tourist attractions.
Well, and we put the parks in there,
Well, I understand those are
And those
just
kind of
tourist
things.
attractions.
but, I mean, I've got the numbers. In 2001, we did $850,122 in the city. In 2003, we did $1,153,000. I mean, we kept going up, but now we're back to $850,000. And so,
And the year you did that $1.3 million, we did $200,000 less than we did in 2008. So we were only accounting for a third of the
right,
business at the time,
right,
whereas now we're about almost 60%.
right,
And most of that is carpet business and construction.
right. We were getting everything into the bed and breakfast.
You know,
That's what we were doing.
I understand exactly what you're saying. I'd love to see every dollar going in only to the city of St. Genevieve, but some action's gonna have to be taken to go to the state and change it, is what I'm hearing. And that's not gonna happen overnight.
No, I ain't saying it's going to happen overnight, but
So-
what I would suggest to you, though, looking at all those numbers and backing ours out and so forth, our beds and breakfasts were obviously attracting a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And when you read all the statistics off of Google Analytics and so forth and start grinding into them, wineries, beds and breakfasts, historic. We need to spend more of these dollars out of this commission on direct advertising of our beds and breakfasts, which are historic by the nature of their age. And that puts you guys in a little conflict. I'm not in conflict because I don't have a bed and breakfast. But how many people have stayed at the Inn? How many have stayed at the Southern Hotel? How many have stayed somewhere in time? And I believe that what we need to be doing instead of just the general stuff, or run the general ad, and then take these tax commission dollars and specifically advertise the beds and breakfasts and their websites and toll-free numbers as a tag-on ad, all the lodgings, to see if we can get the income up in our lodging industry.
I would also add to that advertising outside of 150 miles. And everything for this year at least that you guys approved was specific to St. Louis and the metro area. That's just an hour drive away. Most people drive and go back home. If you look at it much further, I mean, the further people have to drive, the less likely they're going to turn around and go home. And that was one of the, I mean, kind of a jump towards, but that was where the recommendation for 2013 was Missouri Life and Show Me Missouri, and trying to hit further out as opposed to just an hour drive. Heck, I went to St. Louis Friday night. It took me an hour to get there, an hour to get back. I wasn't going to stay overnight. I mean, when you guys go to St. Louis, do you stay overnight?
Well, okay, but I agree with that, but I want to say one more thing about those high dollars. I say back when you guys were getting those high dollars, not only did you have this money, you had the bed and breakfast, six people all together pooling a whole lot of dollars and advertising themselves on top of that money.
And that's why we need to.
That
I
money,
think we
they're not
need
doing
to-
that anymore.
Oh,
Well, I don't know about that.
I still am.
Yeah, I would think
People
they
are,
are.
yeah, but as a group, you're not, where you were
Right.
pooling your money.
Oh, I mean, as, we had our association,
Yeah, the
our bed and
association.
breakfast.
Bed and breakfast association.
Right.
And you were doing some heavy advertising.
We were.
Right.
Yes.
That hasn't
And it
been
was
done at
success,
least.
my point is,
I've
it was
been here.
successful, but we're not doing that type of advertising for this specific lodging. There used to be a part in the Post-Dispatch where you had listed the beds and breakfast, and all of them were in there, and you were getting a lot of hits off of that. I mean, rentals off of that.
And where do you?
But that isn't there, but that's not happening. And what I'm saying is that if it worked then it should work now, because obviously our B&Bs are going down.
Yeah.
So
And
is the
where do you
B&B?
have the biggest potential of customers right now coming by this city?
Anybody on the 55
Out
corridor?
on that highway. You got millions of people going up and down that highway.
Yeah, but
They
the other
buzz
thing
right by us.
Well, the other thing you have to understand on that too is that you didn't have the number of rooms out on 55 back in those days, because back in those days, I used to pick up overflow for Cardinals baseball games. And I can show you 600 rooms that have been built on 55 since I built my motel. So you've got a lot more competition on both sides on 55 too.
Be interesting to do an exercise on St. Louis City and 55, and to see how they've been doing since 2007.
We did another thing too. When we produced the brochure, we were paying CTM to put it in their locations. Problem was that the state began to say, well, you're not getting bids. And we said, because I was treasurer, they said, I'll take bids. Who else has a box? The 55 corridor was owned by CTM.
55, 57,
670,
Yeah.
44.
They
you know,
owe 'em all.
The Anheuser-Busch, all of the Ralston Purina, McDonnell Douglas, all of those places, they own the box, and you can't put your stuff in their box.
right.
And I said, okay, it's the only game in town. And we were getting people who were picking up that stuff up and down the highway. We had 27 locations on 55. We had 72 locations on 70.
57, we had quite a few too.
Yeah, and we were putting out, now, that year, we had, Bender did the, wasn't that who did our,
Bender does the brochure.
yeah, brochure, and they were in Webster Groves, and I got a contract with them, and it was $12,000, we got 127,000 brochures. And we used them all up. But we're not doing that anymore.
Actually, and this was part of the problem with CTM, and Mike Fowler was the one kind of spearheading this. They had 80,000 brochures in their warehouse that they did not distribute. They took all of those brochures, they weren't distributing them.
But our contract was
But we
stopped.
were, no, we had been paying them.
Well, you had-
They weren't being distributed, and that's, Mike Fowler came in, and so then we were doing a, let's just get rid of what you have, and we had a discount amount. But when we came to the end of that, I called them up, and they still had 50,000 brochures that they hadn't distributed. And at that point, those brochures were 3 printings ago and were completely wrong.
Sure.
So that was the big problem with CTM and why that wound up being stopped. And that was Mike Fowler coming in saying, hey,
As well as you couldn't get a report as to what they were really distributing.
Right, we tried that.
Exactly.
And
We
where.
tried reports.
yeah, they
No,
would
we
give no
weren't getting
information.
anything when we were trying.
Yeah,
No,
and it was the
never
same
got a
up
report.
with Mike and then with myself.
Not that it's not a good idea, it's just that we weren't getting a good report.
We weren't getting what we paid for.
I'll agree to that. We had that many left over. See, that was back when,
That was right when I started, back in
well, see,
2010.
and we went off the board in '06, Ron and I did. And back then, we were checking the boxes ourselves. Or, you know, we were going to various places, and we would go in and check to see if there was anything in the boxes. And various people, Ron was doing it, Jim was doing it, I was doing it. We were putting stuff in our car. We would pull into those places that were free. That's when we bought what we call the newspaper boxes, the ones that we owned, because you could put those in rest areas. We were keeping those filled.
And where are they now?
I did, 5 of them were left over, were in my garage. I gave them to the city back in '06. I was tired,
I only know of the one at,
I was tired
Is
of
it
keeping.
fuel
There used to be one
stop?
out there at the 66 station right there at B Road and 32.
yeah, that's fuel, southbound fuel.
Yeah.
They still have theirs. I need to go look. I gave them 2 cases
Yeah.
a couple months ago. Probably due to have more.
Well, all right, let's talk about the budget. Last year, the motion was made by Jim, seconded by Jack, to do 17,500, just as a budget that we're going to use. What do you propose this year?
There was something here, Mike, that showed estimated what we'd end up with at the end of the grant year, wasn't there?
At the end of the year?
Yeah.
Well, what we'll end up with is, we still have funds coming in for,
There was,
well, April, May, and June's not complete.
there was some reserve money too, wasn't there?
Yeah, we have $6,000 in reserve right now, and that's what we have. But you'll have two periods coming in, which would be approximately 500,000, so that'd be about $10,000. One of your two biggest
Right.
are April, May, June, July, August, and September. So you would have 10,000 coming in, so with the 6 we've got, that would give us roughly $16,000.
You're showing you've already got April, May, and June.
And what's,
Well,
Those estimates are those.
what's the?
no, we don't, you can't count those because people don't have to pay. I mean, I haven't paid for June yet. You don't have to pay until the 15th, and a lot of people don't pay until the end of July because they pay on the quarter.
Right.
So
You and I
that's-
always pay monthly. Don't have to, no law says I have to, but I always pay monthly.
What's not represented in this is July, August, September. We will not receive any more money on that lodging tax receipts, that report Sue gave you. That's June, we're not gonna get any more money for June. That'll show up in July or August, depending on how people pay. That's how that works.
She's supposed to place it. When they pay, they have to tell you, like right now, if I was gonna pay for April, May, and June, I have to tell her how much in April, how much in May, and how much in June.
You're reporting, but they work on a cash basis. They don't have accrual, they don't have the ability to accrue, and they don't have the ability to go back and change. And this is, because I had asked that question, because that was the background I came from, was being able to accrue and shift money around. City can't do that. City runs on a cash basis. So what they get today is that they can't go back and change these numbers. So that's exactly how much money they received, and they won't receive any more money in June.
That's
That's how
a
Sue
problem.
explained.
And the reason why it's a problem is I imagine, Gary, do you pay quarterly?
Are you talking about
Your tourism
sales
tax.
tax? I pay monthly.
You pay monthly. Ron pays monthly, I pay monthly. I don't know about the others.
So it's a question mark, but that's how Sue had
Yeah.
explained it to me. And that was one of the
Well, see,
causes for
and
confusion
that was,
way back when.
and that was the difference. We kept our own books.
Well, there
We
you
kept
could
them
see it.
separate.
I mean, at that point, you could see who, if it was done quarterly or monthly. I mean, you could see a spike every quarter. We'd see it, if it was January, February would be, and then March would be up because the quarter was, the guys that didn't pay.
But that was in deposits, but
Right.
what I would ask for Pam, because I did it for 6.5 years, I would say to Pam, what goes into April?
Oh, right.
What goes into, and my report showed actual dollars that we got in those months.
Right.
And those are two separate reports. The one that Pam provides
Yeah.
is what is reported. That's not necessarily the cash that we received.
Yeah.
The report that Sue provides
Is cash
is actual
receipts.
cash receipts.
Yes.
And that's the one that will not ever change.
Yes.
That's exactly what she received. She can't go back and make adjustments.
And that's because of the law for the state, for its cities, it has to, And that's where when the auditors come, they don't understand what's going on,
Yeah.
why things don't match up.
It's extremely confusing to go from
Yeah.
an accrual style of budget to a cash only. It's just, it's mind-blowing how different it is.
Well, but at any rate, even if we did what it says here that we did in 11, it shows roughly 50,000, and 50,000 times 2 is $10,000. So $10,000 added to the 6 we have is still only 16,000 that we would have at the end of this fiscal year, which is in September, the end of September.
Excuse me, Mike, but there's a sheet here, this one has all the other years, it shows that there's 14,779 to 12 already, with 3 more months to go. This sheet right here.
In her report,
I don't,
No, that's the
It's
Sue,
in
the
the
report
package.
from Sue in the package that you sent out. for that.
14,007 already,
right,
Yeah.
you've got 3 months to go.
and better months.
And historically, you've had 5,000 to 6,000 in those 3 months.
you're talking about this report?
No, talking about this,
Oh,
Lodging tax receipts by month.
maybe you showed me your own account.
It's that back page.
You got a good $5,000 collected last year in those last 3 months. So you're
well,
pushing
that's,
20.
that's 5,000 is half of 10. So in the last 3 months, if you collected 5,000,
Might be changed.
when I estimated it at 10, you gotta add that 10 to the 6 we would have left over. So at the end of our fiscal year, we would have roughly $16,000 as a bank. That's not being allocated.
And what's our proposal?
Haven't had one yet.
Well, there is a-
Are we
Oh,
satisfied?
that's what that's
Yes.
what my proposal,
Oh,
I
that's-
just threw
yeah,
that-
I printed that out.
yeah, I tossed that
That's
out
what
as,
you- that's
these
what
are
you referred to.
suggestions. I didn't know what the dollar amount was, but
How does this differ from what we did just what we're doing today?
what we're doing today.
Yeah, you
oh,
got
the
Missouri Life,
advertising.
are we doing the same thing?
Missouri Life is on that budget. The rest of it is all focused on newspapers. St. Louis, Post-Dispatch, Belleville. I think we have some Southern Illinois, Southeast Missouri. It's more newspaper generated. This one stays with the Missouri Life. They have an excellent circulation and readership. Show Me Missouri is another very well read. So it's, the only thing that still focuses in the St. Louis region is St. Louis Magazine, which has always been a good publication for us. The Missouri Meetings and Events, I added that because it's ways to have meetings. And we can get hard leads based off of our advertising in Missouri Meeting and Events. These are just suggestions. If you guys want to stick with the newspapers, we can do that. I think it's a good idea to go with items that have a little bit more longevity. Have an ad that sits around for a minimum of 30 days as opposed to an ad that's only there for 1 day and may be missed.
How are you
That's
gonna
the-
handle, where are you gonna find your magazine or your newspaper ads from?
I have got some put in for the city Welcome Center budget, but not many. It's mostly focused in on the magazine and the online, not a lot of print publications. I think if we do any print publications, it should be a little more focused. Feast Magazine, which is in St. Louis, but that goes to a much higher demographic as far as average household income. You know, if we're going to do those types of publications that are tied to a newspaper, which there's quite a few, you know, that's going to be our demographic. Feast, they're going to look at the B&Bs and they're going to look at the wineries. Life and Style down in Southern Illinois, and I've got that as a part of my recommendation for the city budget. You know, those are the, kind of what I'm looking at, is moving them over to there. I think these would just provide a better bang for the buck, personally, but, you know, like I said, it's ultimately up to you guys to decide if you want to stay in that St. Louis market. I actually think for overnight stays, it's better looking at places that, one, will bring in groups or meetings, which would be Missouri Meetings and Events. We've had several meetings in the past 2 years from smaller groups. We had the Missouri State Historical Folklore Society, St. Genevieve's Women Club, are the two that come off the top of my head.
Those didn't come from that meetings magazine league, though.
No, they did not. They came through, well, the St. Genevieve Women's Club, that was something they did on their own. But we haven't advertised in Missouri Meetings and Events, not last year, not this past year. We did have leads from the future. I can't remember if they wound up placing or not. I'd have to go back and look at all of my
I would ask
scheduling.
I would ask you, bed and breakfast guys, what percentage of your people are from the St. Louis market? What percentage are from out of town, outside the market? I mean, she's basically saying advertise in out-of-place markets. Is 80% of your business from St. Louis, 70%, 60%?
I'd say mine's about 60%,
St. Louis.
St. Louis.
St. Louis
When we
area.
say St.
Say
Louis.
again?
St. Louis area, Belleville.
I'm talking
St. Charles.
about
St.
about
Charles.
a 50-mile radius of St. Louis.
Yeah,
And what percentage of it's within 70-mile radius of St. Genevieve?
What percentage?
Yes.
Probably about 70-mile radius of St. Genevieve.
Yeah,
So you're
you
including
could
St.
take Gerard,
Charles
Southern
and
Illinois.
probably, just a rough estimate, I'd say probably around 75%.
Mike?
yeah, I agree.
Well, if that's the case, then.
I mean,
then
like
the refocusing
75% of
on
mine
Florida
this
doesn't
weekend
follow
were
what
from
your
St. Louis,
historic data
and
show.
the other 25 were from greater distance.
Sorry, say that again?
If that's the case, then the focus needs to be in St. Louis, not 150 miles away if you're trying to put people in beds and breakfasts.
Unless you're wanting to grow.
But then there's people in, like I got a sales call from somebody in in Springfield, Missouri, and I was talking to her, and she said, I said something, well, have you ever been to San Genevieve? She goes, no, what's there? I said, well, we have the largest collection of French colonial homes in the nation. She goes, I didn't know that. So we have people we get a lot of people from the Kansas City area. We've been getting people from up around the Chicago area. We've been getting people from Memphis. We've been getting people from here recently from Tennessee and then lower Tennessee within about, I'd say, maybe 150 miles, in an area in the state of Tennessee from Memphis. So we're getting
Arkansas,
people.
too.
Huh?
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Oh,
Not
the
very many
Memphis.
people from Arkansas.
No,
We won't.
they're coming in the shop.
We won't take Arkansas.
Oh.
They don't wear shoes. But, no, I'm
How
just
long,
kidding.
about how long have you seen that increase with the Memphis market? Because I
It's just
started
recently,
advertising with them.
Within the last year and a half.
Good, because that's how long I've been in the Memphis market.
Within the last year and a half, we started getting people from Memphis. We've been getting people from Murray, Kentucky. We've been getting people from, so we had somebody actually come from Springdale, Arkansas. But, we don't get people, we get people from the Kansas City area. We've been getting several people from the Kansas City area, including on the Kansas City side. But we've not had we have had very few from the Springfield area and very few from the Lake of the Ozarks area.
Yeah, but you do a tally of what comes in, who signs a register. At one time, they gave a recap of where everybody came into St. Genevieve and signed a book.
Right.
What are you showing now as your demographics? Is it more the St. Louis, Illinois? Are you showing a lot more visitors from Tennessee, Kentucky, Chicago?
I've
I mean, do you
seen
see
an
it
increase.
changes?
I have seen increases in certain areas. I don't have the numbers with me. I had them at the advisory council meeting. Memphis has been working out well. I'm glad to hear that there's a result of overnight visits. And that's something that I've just been doing in the past year and a half. So that was a very nice quick turnaround. Chicago historically is a good area for us. We've had some limited advertising. Have had the opportunity to get some editorial. Editorial is always helpful. But
Now you're looking at 350 miles away, just about from here to downtown Chicago.
actually, they fall within 300. I have a
Well, I drive it all the time, and I know it takes me 350 miles to get from my house
As
to
the bird,
downtown
as the
Chicago.
bird flies, using a graph, it shows,
Well, I mean, it's still within 300. roughly
Right.
300, yeah.
But
Right.
what I'm saying is, we get a lot of people that stay from these places, but then word of mouth starts spreading too. So, I mean, you might only get, you know, it just depends on their experience. Like, we had one young couple come in here for the French Festival, and I asked them when they left, I said, well, do you think it was worth it? And they said, no. They didn't think the French Festival was worth the trip. But they spent most of their time hiking, most of their time, you know, going through the older homes and stuff like that. They were here 2 nights. But then I asked somebody else, and I think they were from, I forgot, someplace over by the Kansas City area. They said, oh, yeah, it was an enjoyable experience. So, I mean, it just depends on the
what was the
people.
age difference?
Probably, the young couple, they were probably in their, she was just, they were in their late 20s, and the other one were in their mid-40s.
Were the 20s the ones who were out doing recreation?
Oh, yeah, mid-40s, they were the ones. But my point is, we get people that come here from places that, from areas that have never been here before. And they go back and they tell their friends via Facebook or however you want to do it. You know, I mean, we get people that stay at our place, and I always get on and give what we're serving for breakfast in the morning on our Facebook page. And we've had people that stay at our place that will, you know, text, you know, that day or answer while they're there. But I'm just saying, if we get people into town from these areas where we don't normally reach, and word spreads, we get more people coming in.
Well, I think what you started to say about spreading out more, because the people of St. Louis already know St. Genevieve. They know it. All you have to do is say something about you're from St. Genevieve, and everybody in the room is going to know all about St. Genevieve. It's the people out of Kansas and the people out of Chicago and that outer rim that are, once they know what is here in St. Genevieve, that's who I think you should be pointing your advertising to, the outer rim.
And we still have advertising in St. Louis. But
Oh,
I think
yeah, I
from-
don't mean, well,
from
maybe
looking
for
at
a
an
special
overnight-
event,
Right, well, and for special events and just kind of general
yeah,
advertising.
yeah.
But I think if I owned a bed and breakfast, and I wouldn't because it's way too much work, I would look beyond. I mean, because I know if I'm going to go and if I go to Memphis, I'm staying overnight. I'm not driving back.
Yeah,
You know, when I go over to Carbondale, I'm like, okay, it took me an hour and a half to get there. I'll drive that back and go home. I want to sleep in my bed.
But see, a lot of ours that come down here several that they come here to go to the wineries. Their assumption is they're not gonna be in any shape to drive back to St. Louis.
Right.
mm-hmm.
You know, from the wineries, because they've already spent 20 minutes to half hour driving from the wineries
back.
to St. Genevieve. So then they got another hour, you know, if they live in St. Charles.
Let me inject a question into this. The wineries are getting thousands of people. They have 30 rooms out there. In a 3-month period, they only did $36,000.
But
Why, if the people are drinking and don't want to drive back, why aren't they staying at those 30 rooms?
Because their rooms are $300 a night.
Because they're expensive.
Their rooms are anywhere $250 to $300.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, we also need to add into the equation, speaking about the wineries and people staying over, with Farmington having passed their lodging tax. And Joe Scott is a big driver on that, but they're giving money to the wineries to encourage them to tell their people to stay in Farmington.
Mm-hmm.
Farmington has 400 rooms.
Yeah.
And so that could be another reason why we have a drop in heads and beds, because since the beginning of this year, everyone's promoting Farmington as the place to stay.
Yeah.
And I know they're not staying in St. Genevieve County because you're talking, if you divide 3 into 36, you're talking $9,000 a month for 3 months.
I'm trying to remember what their bed tax was. It's like 4 or 5%, isn't it?
Their bed tax?
Yeah.
They don't have a bed tax.
Farmington, yes, they
Oh,
do.
not Farmington, I'm talking about St. Genevieve County.
Oh, no, I'm talking about Farmington.
Yeah, Farmington has a bed tax.
Because the other thing that Farmington is doing, and this is also with Joe Scott, is they have shuttles now that go from
Right.
their wineries, so people don't have to worry about driving
Right.
that, you know, I mean, so
Yeah.
that's
You go
a
back to the
challenge.
state, you
That's
say the
a-
state, now, Farmington is another county, and they have a shuttle service, and so we're advertising them, but they're staying in another county.
Not all,
We're not
but,
getting them.
not all, but, you know, a good percentage.
And I'm not saying that I want all of those, because all of those people that drink real heavy and fall down drunk, not my idea of cup of tea. I
But
haven't
it's
had any problems for a long time with that.
something else to add into the equation.
Long time.
You know, it's another variable that has not, we
It's
have not
closer, too.
had. It is closer, but it's a variable that we have not had prior to this year. So when we're looking at tax receipts going down for this year, we have this newest competition that's providing an extra added service that we didn't have that competition before. We didn't have Farmington saying, in advertising, come stay at our place and we will give you shuttles to and from the wineries.
I think that if you're going to go to the winery and have a great time and not care how much you drink, that would be a selling feature. Definitely would be a selling feature.
Yeah, I mean, whether they're coming back stumbling
But
or
then that
not, it's a
takes us-
selling, it's a
That
selling
takes us
point.
back to what Ron says. Then we need to start promoting more the bed and breakfast, because it's a whole different experience
Yeah, than the motel.
than the motel.
But, you know, we can figure a dollar amount. Do we have to say where it's gonna go right now, or is this?
No, all
No,
we have to do is
that's up to you, but the
submit
sooner-
budget
But
to-
I think if we go with submit a budget, and I really believe that the bed and breakfast and the microtel should really sit down and say, where should we put our money at? I mean, do we believe that the Missouri Life is the way to go? I mean, you guys are the ones out there doing the advertising now. You know where your traffic's coming from.
Well, I'm looking at the Missouri Life, it cost us $2.50 an issue to advertise. In
So,
Missouri
do you
Life.
guys that have B&Bs, are you doing your own advertising as well as Stephanie? And I wanted to ask, do you also advertise on the internet?
Here's my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, but my opinion is newspapers and magazines are a waste of money. I do all my advertising on the internet.
That is going big, big, big from what I
I
have
mean,
heard.
that's my opinion.
Well, the state agreed with that. At one time, the state wouldn't go in the co-op with the brochures. They felt everybody was going electronic. So,
There's actually a change. There have been some studies that come out that still say print is king.
okay,
Yeah, but who's doing the studies?
It was third party.
newspapers.
No, it
But
was,
when I
it was a university.
When I ask the people that come to my place, I say, where'd you see us on the internet? I said, have you, most of the people come to our place, we have Missouri, we subscribe to Missouri Life, we have a lane there, and they go, oh, that's a neat magazine. I've never seen that before. And we're talking about people from Missouri. But I mean, that's just me. I mean,
Yeah.
I do not advertise in the papers or newspapers or in magazines anymore. I'm strictly internet.
The Missouri Life advertising.
You need to, just one more step. How did they find you on the internet? In other words, did they
They
find it
Google
because of
St.
the,
Genevieve,
pardon me?
they Google St. Genevieve, or they Google.
Or maybe the websites that she's advertising in the heart.
Right, yeah, but I mean,
What I'm saying is if she's advertising businessstgen.com in her ads, that might be what's driving them to the internet.
but most, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying,
Right.
But it could be, right.
Yeah. I
We've
mean,
got
there is-
reports that say what
Right.
amount come off each of the
well, this
websites.
year, we're having our best June we've ever had.
Good.
That's because I built it up for you.
We were really low that first couple of years.
Oh, well.
Then once they found you were gone, we did really,
I knew it was something like that.
No, I think they were staying out at his new place.
Yeah, see, they're out
that's
there.
what
I think they're staying out at his.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know.
If they're-
I would
But-
agree with you that magazines and newspapers are a shock.
Well, if you look at the newspapers, they're laying people off. They're going out of existence
They
because
are.
they cannot sell ads. Because they have, it's like Missouri Life. You're looking at $2.50 an issue is what we're going, on this particular. That's too much in my mind. I mean, I'm not saying that bad, but I'm just saying, I'm not saying nobody. very few people that I have asked, now I don't ask everybody, but I do ask several people, you know, periodically. And I'll say, where did you find this? And they go on the internet. I said, well, how'd you find St. Genevieve? They go, well, we heard about it. You know, like our grandmother said, I remember when I was a little kid, or something like
Yeah.
that, you know? So word of mouth, but I mean, we just don't advertise, I mean, I just don't do it.
Well, my point would be this, the Show Me magazine, I've been in it for 21 years. And in the 21 years, now they used to do 6 a year, but they're down to less than 6 a year now. But in the 21 years, because they did every 2 months, I have had that many people said, I saw your ad in the Show Me magazine.
You know what, though? There are very few people. If you ask them, I saw your ad somewhere,
But
they never remember where.
But if I say
Unless
to
they
them,
bring
how
it
did
in
you
with
find
the
me?
article.
Right.
Unless
How
they
did you find
bring
me?
it in
They
with
said,
them.
I found you on southernhotelbv.com. How did you get that?
Yes.
I don't know.
They
Yeah,
just-
they'll say,
I
I
don't
saw
know
your
how I
ad
got
somewhere.
there.
It could have been
So in
anywhere.
21 years, I've never stopped advertising. I pay that every month.
Yeah.
I pay for that ad every month. I do buy ads in Missouri Life on occasion. But I can tell you, I buy ads, and the one he brought up before, which was the Post-Dispatch, although they stopped doing it.
Right.
They absolutely stopped doing it. And this was before the internet came along. They did it in the spring and the fall. Belleville News Democrat does this. They do it in the spring and the fall. And I buy an ad. And the reason why is, right after I buy that ad, I have an influx of people from those 14 communities, Redbud, Mascoutah, Belleville, you know, Waterloo. I have an influx of people
Right.
who
That's
start
their
standing.
spring and
Right
fall
after the
inserts.
ad comes out. And I will say to them, when they book it, I will say to them right there, when they book it online and ask how they always say internet. But when they come in, I have to ask them 3 questions. You know, first, whether you have, you know, any dietary needs, and so on and so forth. And the 4th question is, why did you pick me? Where did you see it? And they will answer it, internet. How did you find it on the internet? I don't know.
But my point is this,
But I'm not going to stop.
because, you know, we asked Jim, and they said, oh, you always advertise in the Belleville News and stuff like that. You know, and we did that for a couple of years. And we advertised in whatever that, Randolph County, whatever it is. But 2 years ago, I said, that's it. I'm not spending money on advertisement on a media that is slowly going out of existence.
Yeah.
You know, I
There's a
said, I'm
reason
gonna
for
start
that.
concentrating, and it has not affected our business at all. Matter of fact, our business is actually doing better. We've lost no business because we stopped as an individual stopped advertising in the newspapers and magazines.
So where would you put your money? I mean, we can get, maybe I'm jumping ahead, again, we can still do what we're gonna allocate for a budget, but what would we pick as our media? I mean, is there something we could do internet-wise that would get you more exposure through Google, through,
How about Facebook?
I don't know, I mean, I don't know how these guys are advertising.
I don't know.
Facebook is good if people, how do you say this?
It's people that sit at home their entire existence playing on Facebook,
Yeah,
and
but
aren't
that's
gonna go
also-
to a bed and breakfast,
they
that's
gotta,
what it
but
is.
they gotta be,
I don't know anything about it.
Facebook is they have to be your friends.
Yeah.
Facebook is a social media,
Oh, okay.
you know. In other words, if people come to my bed and breakfast, and then they like our bed, like right now, we have 108, I don't know how many likes, 181 or 182. In other words, there's 182 people out there who have basically stated, there are some that are family, but that have stayed at our bed and breakfast, that like us. And then every time they write a post,
It goes on their
it goes to all their friends. So if they have 180 friends, then what they post, like they say, we just love Mary. Gary's, we love Mary.
Yeah.
Where's Jim? Stuff like that, you know. But that goes to their 180 friends.
Yeah.
And then that goes, if they read that and they copy that or whatever
But
they
what
do.
you're telling her is it's an individual thing.
It's
not something
word
that
of
you can
mouth.
buy. That's right, it's
It's
an
word
individual
of
thing,
mouth.
word of mouth. It's not something that you
Well,
can.
but
That's
There are-
basically what Facebook is.
We
Social
do-
media, it's a word of mouth.
We belong to Bed and Breakfast in Missouri, we belong to bedandbreakfast.com, we belong to B&B Online, which you belong to all of
I
them.
belong to all of those.
Yeah, but to us, that's where most of our contacts are coming from. And, well, we get a lot of contacts, I shouldn't say most of it, we get a lot of our contacts from Chamber of Commerce, they get on the Chamber of Commerce, they get on historic San Genevieve. We get a lot of contacts from there too. But most of our contacts come from bedandbreakfast.com and then the next one is B&B, or Bed and Breakfast in Missouri, yeah. So, I mean, but that's where we advertise, and that's where our money goes, because that's where we have the most success, because in our business, where I'm looking at, I stopped papers and magazines several years. After we did that magazine thing in Missouri Life, that was the last time, because I had received none that I know of. Well, no, I take it back. I saw 3. So I spent like $800 or whatever it was that year for 3 rooms. But, you know, then you could say, well, you got 3 rooms, but you know, that's purely speculation. And then that was it. That in the newspapers, I'm just going. And we still get, and I think a lot of the stuff we get, like from Memphis, is stuff that Stephanie's done, you know. I mean, that's just my personal, as a bed and breakfast, that's, you know, as an individual bed and breakfast, that's where we do, and word of mouth. I mean, if you got a good reputation, you know, and we had, hate to say this, but our bed and breakfast had a good reputation before we bought it, but, you know, it's just,
You don't really hate to say it.
Give it the
What's,
$10 now. All right, Jim, you want to make a motion for just a budget to turn into the city? I'll have to say where you're going to spend the money. You can decide. You don't want to do magazines, you don't want to do newspapers.
Well, I mean, I think first we do the budget, and then we kind of go back and figure out where we're going to spend it at. But $16,000, I mean, maybe, you know, we were 17.5 this year. Do we want to, are we looking to cut back?
It's up to you. I mean, we didn't bring in as much money as we did the year before.
well, the budget is projected, right?
Budget is projected. You can always ask to change the budget, but if you say, it just goes in as one line for the city.
You
It's
can,
our budget.
you can add to it, but that requires a vote of the Board of Aldermen to do an amendment to the budget, and they don't like that.
But we don't have to.
But-
We don't
That's
we
too
don't have
bad.
to.
If we want to add to it, we can.
But if we,
go
No,
to the
what I'm
top.
saying is,
no, I know,
we
but
don't
I
have
mean
to, we don't have to do the board to reduce it, right? I mean, like,
No.
if we decide we're not gonna take in as much money as we thought, so therefore we're gonna reduce this, we're gonna cut back on this area.
The only thing would be, though, is if I call up Missouri Life and say, for example, if you guys were to go with Missouri Life, if I call them up and I say, let's set up the rest of the year, 5,500 is, you know, show me what you think, you know, give me a bid. If I sign an insertion order, we are required to
Don't
fulfill.
understand that,
Right.
yeah.
So, and that's
So-
how I go to these guys. I can go to them and say, hey, this is how much I have to spend. This is a time period I would like to spend it in, April to May through September, end of the fiscal year. And then they provide me an insertion order, I sign it. You know, so it's really hard to say if you want to reduce it, if we're already obligated contractually.
I'm not talking about, I'm
Okay.
talking about whenever we go to the.
No,
So
it's
let's
for like
put in
now.
let's put in the 16, but
16,
we're
yeah.
not saying this is where it's going. We're gonna have future discussion and meet on where it's going. We're not saying you have authority to release this money. We're just putting it into the budget. Is that
Okay.
right?
That's what you're proposing, that's a
Right.
motion.
Okay.
And the motion is for 16,000?
Well, right now, I mean, might as well just say 16,000, so.
Then my
I-
next,
go
Because you
ahead.
have that, we know that that's going to, we do have that.
Yeah,
We know we will have that.
we'll know we'll have that kind of
Yeah,
money.
Yeah, uh-huh.
But you can see it's trending downward, not the direction we want it to go, so.
Yeah.
We have to cut back a little bit, so.
and that's fine, but going back to what Jack said, keep in mind advertising is placed 3 to 6 months out.
Sure.
Yeah.
So wherever you guys want it to go,
Well, I
the
think
sooner you can let me, I'm just saying, instead of waiting until this year, I didn't get an approval till February or March of where to spend it. We can't do that. I mean, we need to have it ready to go as quickly as possible.
And I think we need to do that also. I just think we need to get the money, pick a dollar amount, and then we'll pick the media that we're gonna go with to give you enough time to, and we should do
Right.
that soon.
And that was just my second side, is if this is the amount we approve, then you need to let me know as soon as possible where you want that money
Well,
spent.
let's make that motion.
Okay.
Jack, did you make the motion?
Jim did.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we allocate $16,000 for our
Marketing?
FY13
Marketing.
marketing plan.
And I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Jim,
Seconded, Jack.
seconded by Jack, for 16,000 for marketing. Any further discussion? I ask for a vote, call for a vote by show of hands. Shirley?
Yes.
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Okay. 5-0. Okay, now, under advertisement, let's just talk about this for a minute. If you feel that magazines and newspapers are not as productive as some other medias, or that particular magazines and newspapers in what she's got planned here are not as productive, you can ask Stephanie to look into some other avenue and come back to us with a proposition, like maybe radio, maybe something that we could buy on the internet through Google, or, I mean, that's just her job, is what she does.
As I say, I mean, if you decide on a medium, let me know and I'll look into what the best options are. The Missouri Life also comes with online. I mean, this is
Online.
not all strict.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And each of these publications have online advertising as well. It's just a matter of, are you looking to stay in a specific market?
Well, here, let me inject this in there. This 75,000 is 12,000 an issue. So,
No,
No, that's 75,000.
that's 70,000 per every time it's published. That's their
That's many
circulation.
people.
75,000? They're at 75,000 now?
Yes.
Yeah, but then a lot of them go into places like Walmart, places like.
Freebie.
No, they're not freebies.
No.
No. No. But like, this, like various Walmarts will take 5 or 6 issues.
Okay.
And last year we did 3 issues, and this year you're doing 4, right?
6.
6.
6?
You're doing
Okay.
6 on Missouri Live?
Because
She's
of the
got
timing
4
to the
issues
end
on
of the fiscal
Show Me.
year, I only have 4.
Well, I don't think we ought to get into each of those things right now. We need a separate meeting for that. But let me ask you, one of this, talking about internet stuff, what's this constant contact? Did that not work out for you?
The Constant Contact, that is for the newsletter. That's just an annual thing.
Online newsletter, but you don't have it on there.
No, I didn't put it in there. I was gonna put that into the city.
You're still gonna keep it, it just goes into the city budget.
Yeah, I'm just moving it over. My goal was to go with things that would stay within your St. Louis, but it would expand the area. Missouri Life, Show Me Missouri, Missouri Meeting and Events all hit the St. Louis market. They also hit the rest of Missouri.
I'm just looking at what you had in there last year versus what you got in there now. Okay,
Any other
let's move on.
magazines besides the St. Louis Magazine that come out? Oh, there are. There's the Sauce and some of those others. aren't
Sauce has kind of fallen away.
there? Has it?
Yeah. The new one is Feast.
Yeah, they're trying to sell me Feast. That's from the Post-Dispatch.
Yes.
Feast.
You had Glamour last year.
Glamour is the groups. I have moved all group to both the co-op and to the city.
And what's group travel leader versus,
That's also groups. That's also going, that's actually part of the Missouri State Co-op budget, so I have completely taken it out. I don't want to duplicate and have that publication in all 3. I'm trying to keep it separate.
Right.
Group advertising in the co-op, group advertising in the city. I didn't include that. The only thing that would fall under quote-unquote group advertising for fiscal year 13 is the Missouri Meetings and Events. I'm going with that because...
What is their publication?
What is their
Circulation.
Circulation? I didn't get the email back from him yet, but they hit the St. Louis market pretty hard. But as soon as as soon as he gets me the media kit, I can send you that information out. He just hadn't sent me the updated one yet. I only have fiscal year 10.
Okay, Jack, you wanna ask for another meeting for just discussion on this?
I think we better plan a meeting to decide where we're going with everything.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
we
if
definitely need to do that.
Can
I mean-
spend that time today.
Okay, 3 of us live in town,
Three.
I live on the road, so.
that's right. Let's talk to the roadie.
I mean, I know my schedule next week, if you want, if next week's too soon, I should be in town on Friday. I have a conference call every Friday from 10 to 11. My problem was last week when I didn't make it is I was on my way back from Minnesota on a flight, and I couldn't call in to tell you that I was gonna be missing the meeting, so right now I'm scheduled to be in town Thursday, Friday.
Gary, how do you feel about one of those?
Depends on what time you're talking about.
I just can't do 10 to 11. I'm locked out at
Let's say
10 to
1
11.
o'clock.
Because I get too close to your people checking in.
Well, it's my cleaning time. You know, like right now, we're in my really heavy cleaning time.
Yeah, me too.
I'm just saying, I can make
Did
you
you
a
say Thursday
Thursday.
was out?
Thursday, I'm scheduled in town, an office day anyway. But Thursday would be better.
Thursday would be.
Morning. Or Thursday, well, I mean, I'll work around your schedule.
I just-
Well, the only thing is I have to call,
But,
I have to call Carla tomorrow and have her post it, that we're gonna have a meeting, because we have three or more. We have the President Sunshine Law.
does Thursday work for you guys?
Yeah, Thursday would be good. Wait a minute.
In the morning.
Well, that's after the 4th of July, though.
It's a day before the
Well, we're
4th.
gonna
You're not gonna have any, you have anybody on the 4th?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
So we gotta be setting up for the fair Thursday, or in the afternoon for sure. Oh,
Thursday?
hold on.
Yeah.
I thought it was supposed to be on.
No, it'd be the week after,
What
Jack.
do we have
Be
scheduled
Saturday.
for Thursday?
I hope, the fair's the week after, but
You setting up that?
We're
We're
setting
doing
up on
some
the
stuff
7th,
Thursday.
right?
our Friday.
We have guests coming in for Wednesday night, so.
I'm pretty good most of Thursday.
Who? Yeah, but I won't depend on that. Yeah. Okay, that's all right, I can take an hour out. We're just gonna talk about 170, okay? Okay, all right, bye. Thursday's okay with me. I mean, I can't do it until after I do breakfast.
No,
I can do it at 10,
What day are we on?
Thursday.
the 5th.
Thursday at 10.
But here's what you need to do. Each one of you needs to come up with an idea or something that you think where we should spend the money. Rather than, I mean, some of it, we may say, okay, fine, we'll go ahead and spend it in magazines and our newspapers, but the others, we want to spend in some other means. But you have to tell her what you want to
I
spend
was
the money
gonna
for.
say, that was gonna be my request is, before we get to that next meeting, so that we're not going and saying, well, this is my recommendation, no, we don't like it, come up with something different. This is, next meeting. We did that back and forth last year, and that caused me way behind. I mean, we lost a lot of months of really good advertising opportunity by having that back and forth. So if you could give me an idea of what medium, do you want to just stay in the St. Louis area? Would you rather look, for a broader outreach? The sooner that we can get that together, the more likelihood I'll be able to make recommendations based on what you guys want, and we're not having to do this back and forth and not even getting a decision where we're going to
Oh,
spend it
let
till
me ask you
February.
this. If St. Louis has the St. Louis Magazine, what does Kansas City have? What does Memphis have?
Memphis Magazine, and that's where I've been doing the advertising in Memphis. And
Are you
that's,
doing any there now?
yes, actually, I've been in Memphis Magazine for the past year and a half.
Okay.
Is that through the co-op too?
No, that's out of the city budget. The co-op, everything I have on the co-op for fiscal year 13, and all but one for fiscal year 12, provide hard leads. That means the magazine gets requests for more information about St. Genevieve. They provide us name, address, information, and then I then send out the visitor guides. That helps me with the end of the year reporting that I have to do with the state. And I can say we had,
Well, let me ask you this other question.
for the
Seeing as
analysis
how this
portion.
doesn't meet any grants and that, can we advertise individual businesses like some of the shops, some of the restaurants?
You can. I would caution doing that because if anyone is not advertised, they're going to be angry. I try to remain as unbiased as I can.
We've
And
always done that,
unspecified.
we've always been, that, but I'm also thinking that what Ron said is maybe we should advertise the beds and breakfasts.
Yes, I think you
Ron doesn't
should.
care, and we never have ever heard from Wilmar or the Triangle. Not one word. In all the years I've been in, 26 years I've been here, I've never heard one word from the Wilmar or the Triangle. And he's the largest one, and if it doesn't bother him, maybe we should do some kind of advertisement alphabetically, just list the beds and breakfasts and work up some kind of a thing to list that.
Sure.
I
They're the
have-
ones that generate the money.
Well, I have a question. You guys did do that on an ad.
Yep.
How many rooms did you get based off that ad?
When did they do it?
December.
The one that the ad that you guys did separate from?
We did for the music festival.
Yeah.
Well, I had 3 rooms this Friday night that went to the festival.
But
But are they from
what
back
they
in
from,
December?
they back in December, I mean, that would be the thing.
I can't prove that any of them were, because like him, it's got my web address on there, and they say I found you on the web. They never, but I'll tell you this, and this is a fact, you have to see it in print 13 times
Oh, I know.
before it ever registers.
Well, and you also
Same ad,
have
it has
to
to look just like this 13 times before it ever registers.
well, you also, well, there's even more than that. I mean, there's a whole science behind it. You have to
Yeah.
see it on 4 different, or hear about it
And 4
via
different
4
mediums,
different
too.
mediums. So you've
That's
got
right.
print, online, radio, television,
That's right.
or direct mail piece, or,
Right.
there's,
Before you go, oh yeah, I heard about it.
exactly.
That's exactly it. But what I'm saying is, I'm not just saying because I own a bed and breakfast, but if they come to stay at a bed and breakfast, they're gonna go to Jack's. They're gonna go to,
Absolutely. I think
The
a
historic
lot
house.
of advertising should be done
Now,
on
here's a fact
bed
for
and
you.
breakfast.
One of the rooms this week was from Miami.
Awesome. They're getting away
Yeah.
from the rain.
I'm getting a lot of them from places I never got before.
Good.
Another
Huh.
one, these are 2-nighters. Another one was from Arnold. Comes here every once in a while. Now, he never stayed with me before, and he never stayed overnight. The others are his best friends, and they're both from St. Charles. Never been to St. Genevieve in their life.
Never been to San
We get a lot of people from St. Charles in that shop.
Yes.
But the
Does
whole
St. Charles have a
town
magazine?
profits.
No, I actually had 4 ladies down here visiting from St. Charles Historical Society.
Yeah.
And they were like, they were thoroughly impressed. So they went back and are providing wonderful word of mouth.
I
for
think
St.
so
Genevieve.
too.
But I've been extremely limited on posting anybody from anywhere because it's not in my budget.
Can you get, I mean, I know what Gary is saying about that, but can you get a price on some of the magazines like Memphis and I know I got a lot
Oh, I
of people
have
from
Memphis.
Overland Park, Lenexa, Whitehaven, those are the ones right on the border of Kansas, Missouri, but they're from the Kansas City area. I get a lot of people from up there.
And we used to
Yeah.
advertise in the
Memphis.
Johnson County magazine they had that encompassed Nexa.
It takes in
that
that
area.
area.
Yeah, Memphis Magazine, that ad runs, the one I run.
Is it
it's about-
expensive or
it's-
cheaper than St. Louis?
It's about the same. That one is about $750 per ad for, I believe, a 1/3 ad. And that's the size that we take out in the St. Louis ad, and that runs approximately the same price. I mean, I can move that over from the city budget to this budget and then move something. I mean, I can piecemeal anything around that I would
Why
like
don't you,
to.
why don't you do that? We're kind of talking about having a meeting at 10.
That's fine with me. It's up to you
Is that
guys.
okay, Gary?
I thought, that's on Friday, you do 10, okay.
10 on
Thursday.
On
10
Thursday?
Thursday, 10, okay.
10
o'clock
works.
On Thursday?
Okay, with you, Jack?
Okay. We've been here too long. This is running way over. Let's have election of officers. Once a year, we have to have election of officers. It's not, it's in our bylaws, but it's also in the state statute. So I'll open the election for officers.
Well, let me ask the question before you do that, Mike. I thought there was term limits even on myself, and when do we,
Term limits,
when do we fall off? I gotta be falling off soon.
I'm out in January.
'Cause I think I'm out in January also. Or I'm out sometime.
Whose place did I take?
Was it took Mike
You took Mike
Devaney's?
Devaney.
Yeah, but Mike, you're not taking his place. His limit, his term was over.
He was
Right,
already
I'm
over,
just
so
saying.
you're
You're on
starting
for
at the
3
beginning.
years.
I'm on for 3 years.
Yeah, you're on
I
for
know
3
that,
years.
I'm just saying, I didn't know who went on.
Yeah, you're on for 3 years. Let's see if I've got that. Got it here. If I can find it.
Hey, Jack, Jack, don't I go off the same time you go off?
I don't think so. I didn't bring that
They
with me.
stagger
I didn't
the,
bring my book with me, I have it.
I
Well,
got it too, but I
at
forgot.
any rate, we can still have the election because if somebody goes off, we'll just have to have another election. Yeah, I brought it with me and I know it's here among all this stuff. It tells who. Aha. Here it is. Let's see, Jack, January of 13. Jim is January of 14. Shirley is January of 13. And that's it, you can't come back on, Jim.
Well, I'm looking at it, you know, the thing that bothers me is that I'm gone all the time, and it doesn't get any better. And I
We're
feel,
only required to have one meeting a year.
I know, but I'm just saying, I feel sometimes that I hinder the group by not being here, like I was gonna be here last Friday, and the next thing you know, I'm on a flight, and I missed the meeting. But I just wonder if maybe I should step down and let somebody else that can be active and do what needs to be done. Maybe to think about who could take my place and me stepping down earlier. I mean, I don't mind being on the board. I enjoy doing it. I just think that sometimes there's other people that could probably do a better job because they're in town and they can be at these meetings. I just feel kind of bad that like I said, Fridays I got a conference call 10 to 11 every Friday, and that's when your meetings are from 10. So, I mean, I'm just throwing that out. I think maybe.
That doesn't have to be that way, we can have our meetings at 11. I mean, in fact, they always go over on their meetings, so you
Oh,
can start
absolutely.
at 11:15 anyway.
Yeah, that tourism meeting
Do we have
goes
any
on until
openings?
11:30.
Are there any vacancies?
No,
No,
we have five members. My first 3-year term is over in 13. And I'm entitled, if they want to have me, to go for another
I
3
thought
years.
they just voted to renew.
They just voted to renew me.
Right, but would that have been the start of your second term?
Oh, that's right, that's the start of my second term.
Okay, so I nominate Michael as, stay as the chairman,
President,
I second it.
whatever.
all right. Where's my notes at?
And,
Okay, so for president, you're gonna make,
and Jim's gonna have to stay where he is as treasurer, and Michael, and Gary as secretary.
all right, that's a slate.
Who made you the official nominator?
Well, nobody else said anything.
He's nominating right now. He's the nominator.
He don't care, he's leaving in January,
I'm
right?
ducking out.
Well, we're gonna combine the two offices, vice president and treasurer, and secretary. Because we don't, and all that means is that if I'm not here, you have to hold a meeting.
It'll be shorter.
That'll be easy. Okay, Gary. Any other nominations? Anyone make a motion nominations be closed?
Make a motion to be closed.
Second? Second by Shirley?
Yeah.
Okay, Jim? Shirley? Okay, all in favor of the people nominated?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. All right. On the subject of that, Gary, would you like to have the city give you a copy of the ordinances and of the bylaws
Oh, yeah,
from the city?
yeah.
It would be wise to have you have those. I'll ask Carla if she can't do that for you, okay?
Yep.
Any further business to come before this meeting?
No further business? I have a motion that we adjourn.
I think we adjourn.
Motion made by Gary.
Seconded, Shirley. I don't think you need a second, do you?
No, you don't need it.